Here are 9 budget tool brands you can find online that I think you can fill your toolbox up with on the cheap. I gotta say, each tool I put in my toolbox is a very deliberate and intentional decision. I do not have extra tools for any reason because I don't have a whole lot of space in my workshop. So each one of these has been kind of hunted down and picked out specifically for the job that I needed, in no particular order other than how I laid them out. I'm not ranking these, but here are the 9 brands that I think you should check out. SUNEX or SUNEX, SUNEX, and I'll put all the links to these down below so you don't have to try to hunt these down by my mispronunciations or part numbers. These right here are magnetic sockets. They are a shallow 1/4 inch drive magnetic socket. This will hold whatever you're trying to get in there. There's no magic there, okay, and it holds. I'm wiggling that pretty good. If you can't physically get your hand down in there to thread it, something's in the way, or your hand just can't fit, or you don't have enough room to twist that, you don't need a hand to hold that in there. You don't need tape to go in the socket to try to hopefully stick it while you get weight down in there. And just about on every vehicle I work on, I have these sitting out on the workbench because I know I'm going to end up using them. Next brand up, we've got DURATECH, and that's actually 2 of these tool sets here. I've got this whole set, this long double flex head ratcheting wrenches from DURATECH, and I've got the metric version. They have the SAE as well. They are quite long. Let me get a run on this. This is the 19 and 17, probably the one I've used the most. 16 inches long on that. I use it quite a bit for if you're doing like suspension work and you're working or deep into a car and you're trying to grab it a pulley, that's up against the side of something. These are pretty good at doing that. So that's what I've used these for. And DURATECH also makes these ultra thin or super thin wrenches. They are the thickness of a nickel. I did a video on this earlier. They are legit the thickness of a nickel. Most notably, I've used it to save about an hour and a half each time I do this throttle body job on a specific vehicle. And anywhere that you can fit a nickel, I'm serious, you can get one of these in there. I'm going to jump over to the hammer here. And these brands, a lot of these brands make more tools than just what I'm showing, especially some of them kind of cross over into sockets and hammers and hose clamp stuff and ratchets. I have mostly what you see here from them, but I feel like I could trust all of their other stuff as well because I trust what I bought from them so far. This is a brand called NEIKO, or NEIKO, N-E-I-K-O. You can see it's gotten beaten off of there a little bit. And this has been my dead blow, my 2-pound dead blow for quite a few years now. You can see it's got some battle scars on it, but I've used this in every angle you can. I've used it like that. I've used it like that. I've used it like this, and I've even used it like this and like this, and it's still going. This has been a really good dead blow for me. It lives on the workbench. All right, the next brand is probably one of my favorite hidden secret brands for pliers. Brand called Tsunoda. They're out of Japan. Sometimes they go by TTC, which is short for Tsunoda Tool Company. This is the first thing I ever got from them. This is their flush cut pliers with lead catch, and this is the 5-inch version. I use these all the time on zip ties. What they do is they cut a zip tie completely flush against the butt so that there's no tag hanging out that'll cut you. If you've ever been cut by a zip tie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was so impressed with these that I went out and got their needle nose so that I could have one just sitting on the workbench. Right on this magnetic rail. I've got one right above where you can't see. There's like a rail right here. They're very, very good quality for the dollar especially. And I went out and got their soft jaw pliers as well. And I've got a video or 2 on how I use these. Whenever you're touching something that you don't want to mar up, like plastic or nylon fittings, I have used these quite a few times. Very nice. I also have their larger version of a soft jaw plier there too. And these are really nice too. They are sprung, which is kind of unique for something like this in this size. I don't run across that very often. Like if you get into some of the brands that everybody loves, I don't think too many of them have that sprung version, but I could be wrong. Okay, this is another Japanese tool company called Fujiya. They make a really nice set of needle nose pliers. These are real tight. The quality, the fit, the finish, all that. I've used these quite a bit. They live right on the top of my tool cart. So if I'm ever getting into the little needle nose stuff like this, I like these little Fujiyas. Okay, I've mentioned soft jaw pliers already, and I got another brand because I wanted to compare them against Tsunoda. This is my only tool from them. This is IPS, come recommended by one of the viewers. And I got to say, these feel like an okay brand plier. I don't think they're at quite the Tsunoda level, but maybe it's the exact model that I've got there, because this one is slightly different. But if just by hand feel, if I was going to pick one or the other, I'd pick the Tsunoda over the IPS. But I need 2 soft job pliers for when I'm working on propane fittings and working on the snowblower. There's an adjustment for the cables where I have to have two pair of pliers, and if I were to use metal job pliers during that, I would ruin those fittings almost immediately. Okay, want to talk about Titan next? You can find these in some auto stores as well. Titan makes these nice, really small and slim 1/4-inch drive rotating head ratchets that I use quite often, especially in the interior of a car when you don't have a whole lot of space between stuff and you need to drive things in and out. I've used these to slip between header pipes before so that I can get to something underneath all that setup without having to remove the header itself. I've done a lot of work with some random throttle bodies on these as well, because they can kind of fit in between the vacuum tubes and intake tubes and all that stuff without having to disassemble all that. These can save you quite a bit of time. I'm sure there's way more applications that I'm mentioning that I've used these for. Those are what come to mind. And I liked that ratchet so much that I decided to get one of their longer flex heads. This one kind of locks into place. It doesn't lock into place. It kind of notches into place, I should say, which is helpful when you're working with a certain spot the whole time. It does kind of have a little bit more stay than the ones that are not locking like that or notching like that. And this is a pretty big one. Let me measure this one out. That's an 18-inch 3/8 drive, okay? Because sometimes you got to have the slimness of a 3/8 head to be able to get in there, or the slimness of a 3/8 socket to be able to get where you're going, and that's why I picked that one up. I really like the big handle on it. The reason I got the one with the big fat handle is because I was working with, I'll show you, this is a gear wrench ratcheting and locking, so it notches and locks if you want to keep it there, which is helpful, okay? But what's not helpful is it's just not long enough. So the leverage I can get on this Titan is a lot better. When you're getting that leverage, it's nice to have a big fat handle so that this isn't digging into your hand so hard when you're really trying to pump some oomph onto something. I want to talk about Aries. I love their tools. One of my favorite tools from them, you've probably heard me talk about these before, is their magnetic spark plug sockets. I use these every time I change a spark plug on anything. It's magnetic. It doesn't have that rubber boot in there that always falls out. They just hold in there like a magnet, well, exactly like a magnet, and they don't come out. I mean, that's not going to fall out when you're going down in an engine bay. I love these. So when I got these Aries spark plug sockets, and when I started falling in love with these, I was like, all right, let's check out what else they offer. I ended up getting their hose clamp pliers, and these have that little notch right there to hold them. Another really nice feature on these is they notch and then lock in place with this lever here. So you can lock them in however you want, and then it's holding that clamp right up here so that you don't have to continue to hold that clamp the whole time. You can just lock it into place and it's good to go. These are their long reach hose clamp pliers, and I've used these for many more things other than hose clamp pliers, but it's nice if you're working on the top side of a car and you need to get to the bottom side for something. This is a super long way and easy way to do it. The amount of pressure it takes to get the leverage up here is awesome. Like, you barely have to do anything. It's really, really good feeling tool. Let me measure that one out too. Let's call it 13.5-inch tool. So that really extends your reach in an engine bay, and it's so slim right here that you can get in between, like, the radiator. You know, if you're going down like that, you can get in by the radiator and get down to a hose clamp that might be way down low or way in the back behind the firewall. You know, if you're back there like that, you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to show you. And another thing they have that Aries has is these shallow impact adapters. I run a Milwaukee stubby 3/8 under the hood and under the car most of the time, so this is the adapter I'd be using most. This is a 3/8, goes in there, and then it goes to a half so that I can start working with my 1/2-inch sockets now, which is really nice to save the space here versus a lot of other adapters that are about twice the size. Okay, and one brand that I think maybe a lot more people have heard of than the others, and maybe they haven't, I don't know. They are based in the United States. Most of these others, I don't believe they are, but this one is a United States company, Tecton. If you haven't heard of Tecton yet, you got to check their stuff out. They make a lot of nice, really affordable, budget-friendly tools. I run their extensions. This one is huge. It is a 24-inch extension. I think it's the second longest one I have from them. It's the longest one that'll fit on the camera. Sometimes you need these, and this is a 3/8. Sometimes you need these when you're working on a bell housing. You're trying to reach a transmission bolt from underneath the car. You really have only a couple options, and one of them is to run a super long extension. And instead of running, you know, the wiggly worm that some people have to put together, and you're losing so much torque with that. So much of your power is lost in that wiggle, the wiggly worm. So instead of letting that wiggly worm lose all your power and torque, I picked up one of these long dog kits. I think I've got a 24 and like an 18. I'll have to correct that down in the comments. I'm not entirely sure. A lot of these brands have great warranties as well. I've actually had this, I've had to warranty the SUNEX set here, and there was nothing wrong with it. Nothing ever broke, but what they did is they sent me 2 9s instead of my 10. So I had a double 9, like this is how the kit came. And I emailed them, and they said, oh, okay, we'll send you a 10. So they immediately sent me a 10. A couple days later, I had a 10, and now I have a spare 9. Nothing hard about that process. That was really easy. That's the only trouble I've had with any of these, and that was barely trouble at all. You can fill up your toolbox as a DIY guy for like 1/10 the price of anybody going on one of the tool trucks. And I think some of the quality of these tools is better than what you'll find in some of the big box stores and the big box brands. If there's a budget-friendly tool brand out there that I didn't cover that you've got, drop it in the comments. Let us know. We got to check it out.
And that's what I'm going to explain today during this video.